Viewers, look at the pictures on your screen. Hear what was said at this very glorious meeting of two leaders, and read what was agreed upon in the joint statement. You'd have to be particularly cynical to deny that the Modi-Trump meeting went off better than what the usual suspects had predicted. Viewers, this was a win-win meeting. I'm not saying it. I'm only reiterating what the entire American press has said, starting from the most skeptical, New York Times, to Washington Post, to the LA Times, to the Wall Street Journal. Viewers, I have a whole list here of headlines. The Boston Globe, all of them have said that ties between the two countries couldn't be stronger, couldn't be brighter, and most importantly, that both these leaders avoided the pitfalls of one-upmanship, of the kind of clinches and viewers' conflicts that the usual suspects, that an ecosystem was predicting. They were actually delighting and hoping this would happen. Before the meeting, the ecosystem was certain that Modi wouldn't be able to stand up to Trump and defend India's interests. They were waiting for Trump to throw the kitchen sink at Modi and by extension at India. Then they would have said, this leader who says that he has a 56-inch chest, now look at him. Viewers, as it turns out, the US president complimented Prime Minister Modi for being the tougher negotiator. He said there's just no comparison, there is no competition. The guy is better. He said it to Modi's face, he said it before all the journalists to hear. And he said it when he was asked a specific question on this point. The Prime Minister was as effusive in his praise of President Trump. Capture these sentiments, viewers.
We missed you. We missed you a lot.
मेरे लिए खुशी की बात है कि आते ही राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने एक मित्र की तरह मुझे पुराने अहमदाबाद के स्टेडियम की याद दिलाई। ये बात सही है कि ह्यूस्टन में हाउडी मोदी और गुजरात में अहमदाबाद में नमस्ते ट्रंप, वो दो एक ऐसी बहुत बड़े विशाल कार्यक्रम रहे जिसकी गूंज आज भी भारत के हर कोने में सुनाई दे रही है।
It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Modi of India. He is a great friend of mine for a long time. We've had a wonderful relationship.
जिस उत्साह से उनकी पहली टर्म में हमने मिलकर काम किया, वही उमंग, वही ऊर्जा और वही प्रतिबद्धता मैंने आज भी महसूस की है।
He's a much tougher negotiator than me, and he's a much better negotiator than me. There's not even a contest.
There's not even a contest. Indeed, across the biggest bugbears, trade and tariff, illegal immigration, there seemed to be a genuine desire for consensus rather than point scoring. On tariffs, while there was some familiar good-natured jousting, good-humored jousting from Trump, the joint statement committed the two sides to evolving a mutually exclusive trade deal. Remember, viewers, the Prime Minister was walking into the Oval Office hours before, viewers, Trump had made a massive announcement saying that he was going to impose reciprocal tariffs on every country on earth that was doing business with America. So, the Prime Minister walks into the Oval Office. Hours before that, Trump makes his statement. Trump has won a massive mandate and majority. He's at the top of his game. But viewers, he doesn't press the point. This shows that DC, Washington DC, doesn't want to punish Delhi with an all or nothing tariff blanket. Viewers, perhaps that approach is being reserved for the real benders of international law. China? Perhaps. On the tricky issue of illegal immigration, both India and United States have resolved to examine the root of the problem. This shows that Trump is ready to be patient and hasn't immediately consigned India to the list of what he calls are malign countries like Mexico, who in his words doesn't send their quote best unquote, but is quote sending people that are bringing lots of problems like drugs and crime unquote to America. Who knows? His readiness to take a wide-angle look at the illegal immigration problem may even soften his approach to the manner in which illegal Indians are being deported back to India. Remember here, viewers, the opposition was geeing up the rhetoric saying, oh, let's see how powerful Modi is. Can he get Trump to change his own laws? I mean, viewers, it's a bit weird. But anyhow, that's what they were saying. Another flight has come. And remember, we have no evidence right now to suggest that those illegal Indians that were repatriated were done so with fetters. We don't know, viewers, because India has raised this issue. But on legal immigration, not illegal, but legal immigration, the H-1B, the green cards, etc., the joint statement has reflected America's traditional warm embrace of global STEM talent, especially from India, by putting in place, quote, innovative, mutually advantageous and secure mobility frameworks, unquote. In very simple language, America has said that we are open to Indians and Indian brainiacs to transform our economy while we are competing with China. None of that isolationist talk entered this particular document, viewers. On regime change in Bangladesh that the opposition once targeted Modi for not being alert enough about, US President Trump left questions for Modi to answer, appreciating India's stakeholdership in its own backyard. Viewers, one very important facet of a relationship is granting the other autonomy. Respect. That's what Trump has done. You have your backyard. We understand that. There's a red line. You have your concerns. Deal with it. We're watching from a distance. Indeed, viewers, Trump has distanced himself from his predecessor Biden and his administration's approach to engaging with India, terming it, quote, gross incompetence, unquote. And he said these words in front of Prime Minister Modi. The genuine desire to regain India's trust and confidence is a healthy sign and was underlined by Trump deciding to do away with legal fetters on exporting top-of-the-line US arms to India, previously only reserved for military alliance partners. The ball is now in India's court. If we say yes, we can have them. That's a huge deal, viewers. It's a huge deal. It's a huge elevation. The fact that the punitive tariffs have not been applied immediately, that we will work out a reciprocal, mutually exclusive arrangement is a huge deal. No other country is getting that concession. With the points of convergence far outnumbering the points of contention, the skeptics in the opposition, especially the Congress, didn't have much to pick apart and appeared a little desperate by raising issues that had no real germane linkage to this entire bilateral agreement, viewers, or talks. Even Shashi Tharoor came out and said, I think that's a very good outcome, because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports. This way, there is time to discuss and negotiate. He's a sensible man, viewers. He's been External Affairs Minister, at least MOS. We have got all that we could have expected, except for an assurance in the way the migrants were sent back. But viewers, even he perhaps knows that we cannot meddle in American laws. We can't change the way they interpret how they want to send back people. No one on earth can meddle, no foreigner, in America's internal affairs, viewers. Think about it. Modi is not a legislator sitting in the Senate or the House of Representatives. He can't vote to change an American law that says, no, we have to fetter the deportees. That is for Trump to decide in his party to decide. And that can only happen through an amendment. Rahul Gandhi, however, has come out and said, when you ask him in India, he keeps quiet. When you ask him in foreign land, he says it's a personal matter. Prime Minister Modi put a curtain on the corrupt practices of Gautam Adani. Even in the US, when filling the pockets of a friend is nation building for Prime Minister Modi, then bribery and looting of nation's assets will become personal matter only. And he's taken this jibe because some reporter asked Modi whether he interceded on behalf of Adani with Trump. And Modi said, look, we don't discuss personal people's problems and private individuals in talks about nations and their future and billions of people on either side. I mean, it's common sense, viewers. The meeting prompts several questions. Has the Prime Minister established without a shadow of doubt that he was able to secure India's interests in the face of rampaging Trump? The US press says it could have been bad. Despite trade friction, both sides walked away with deliverables on a potential trade deal, energy, military, etc. If the US media, mainstream media, which is no friend of Modi's, is saying this, viewers, then why is the opposition still carping on the sidelines? By focusing on issues that are beyond the scope of the bilateral, is the opposition trivializing India-US ties for petty political gain and point scoring? Was the skepticism expressed by the opposition leading up to the meeting a malicious attempt to knock PM Modi's confidence? Viewers, let's open this up. Let's have a conversation. I want to first begin with Mr. Taranjeet Sandhu, former Indian ambassador to the United States. In fact, he was just there before the current incumbent. So he's really up to speed with all the latest on the India-US front. So let me begin with Mr. Sandhu, and you'll remember, viewers, he was here with us yesterday. So this is an important conversation because yesterday we were building up, today he's going to assess. So Mr. Sandhu, has Modi been able to allay concerns that he wasn't capable of tackling Trump and pushing back?
So, Rahul, you of course saw him very clearly articulating that if President Trump follows his national interest, that Prime Minister follows the Indian national interest. But here I'll just draw your attention to, look, he is of course handled 2014, he's handled 2017 when the administration changed there, and 2021, and now it's 2025. And I may just mention here from my personal recollection that in February of 2020, President Trump was backing out of the visit to India, the famous Ahmedabad. And I recall at that time, Prime Minister's persuasiveness had got him there. And in fact, in this conversation you saw, President Trump mentioned about the famous stadium and his visit to Ahmedabad. So I think it's definitely been allayed. I had, in my conversation yesterday, mentioned to you that the substance and the timing are very important. And I think it's important that they met. And the good rapport which both of them have has helped to actually have candid conversations on the issues which are going to be challenging. And I'm sure that's where the opportunities are rising.
So let me ask you, in which areas has India been able to hold its diplomatic ground in this meeting?
So, you know, the 6 areas have been very clearly identified.
Right.
And they have mentioned that transformative changes, meaning discussions in all 6: defense, investment, trade, energy security, technology innovation, multilateral cooperation, and people to people. But let me point out 5 areas which I see very clearly where India is definitely in a position to get a good bargain. One, look, there's a possibility of getting more cheap oil and gas, which is key to our growth. As I indicated to you yesterday, that we require huge energy requirements.
Yes.
And Second is the nuclear energy and the SMRs, as they are called. US is a producer of those. Now, SMRs are important solutions for us because, again, of our huge energy requirements. SMRs can be located in rural areas too. Now, third, I would say, is partnership in AI and chips. We have heard so much about artificial intelligence. I think United States and India are natural partners. And if you see in this joint statement, there is a mention of that. Very, very clear that there's going to be a focus and working together. And there's also talk of merit-based immigration. Now, please understand that this actually helps many of our youth who are studying there. There are more than 300,000 Indian students in STEM areas. And the H-1B expertise has been recognized.
Yes.
I think President Trump himself has spoken. So this will bring focus to the people who have talent and who have actually skills. So that's also the solution here too. If you look at our latest budget, both in terms of skilling and education, that's a focus. And last one, if I may just say, look, trade negotiations, on which so much has been said, actually this document pins down the discussion, and also that within the first 6 months. So actually, it's a big plus. If we can move smartly on that, we can have a trade deal.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sandhu, for joining us this evening and setting the baseline for this discussion. And I now want to open it. Thank you very much, sir. I know you have to go. Thank you very much. But let me just open this up, viewers, because this is very important. We have with us General G.D. Bakshi. We have with us Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Sanjay Jha. We have with us the BJP national spokesperson, Mr. Tuhin Sinha. We also have with us tonight Colonel Shukla, who is a strategic affairs analyst. But let me bring in India's #1 expert here, and that's General Bakshi on defense matters, and also Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, I mean, I will call you tonight the #1 face from the Congress side of the fence because you have a view and you've expressed it several times in books, etc. So let's just put you up there. And let me ask you, why do you and the Congress party and certain ecosystem believe that we haven't been able to get what we should have? This is what I'm hearing from many India bloc leaders like Akhilesh Yadav today, other colleagues of yours in the Congress. Why is this happening?
Rahul, thank you very much for inviting me first to speak. I don't think it's a question of what the opposition expected Mr. Modi to get. It's more important about the way actually when nothing has been got and it is being positioned as some kind of a spectacular achievement. Let me answer to you the first point. Please remember that Donald Trump, the president, has called India as the king of tariffs. In fact, he says India is the biggest abuser of tariff. And if you look at the India-US trade, the surplus is approximately around 45 billion. And today in the press conference, he was very clear and he said that there will be a reciprocal tariff. And the biggest impact of that is going to be in India, on India, because our economy is already slowing down. Exports is a very key component of GDP growth, one of the 4 pillars of GDP growth. And if that gets hit further, you have a depreciating rupee, you have a flight of capital from India to the United States. This could be a very uneven and a turbulent time. And as you have noticed, Rahul, let's be real. For all the hype over Nirmala Sitharaman's budget, you can still see that the stock markets are crashing because at a macro level, there is an emerging panic. Point number 2. Donald Trump is on record to say, and it's there, you can play it out, it's hard to do business in India. And I have worked with American companies. You have a partnership with CNN. Americans look at business as the core of their relationship. And what are the words he said? He said it's got the highest tariffs. There is fraud. Our businesses are being hurt. There's a lot of waste and abuse. I mean, these were strong statements coming from the President of the United States in front of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister did not even contradict that. I mean, these are serious issues here. One more point in your debate. BRICS. Rahul, let me tell you this because you've invited me, and thanks for the respect here because I represent not just the Congress but the India Alliance. If you look at BRICS, India is a founder member of BRICS. And because Mr. Trump is worried about the de-dollarization, as all economists call it, he's actually rubbishing BRICS in front of the Prime Minister. I mean, he's gone to talk about the BRICS ought to be dead. When I believe BRICS with China, India, South Africa, etc., Brazil, etc., is a formidable challenge to the dominance of the Western financial system. The Prime Minister doesn't push back. So, I am worried here, and I don't want, we'll talk about Adani because I did expect Mr. Modi to say that, Adani is going to be investigated in India because of the bribery charges. So let's not even, I don't want to even get into Adani because Tuhin Sinha is going to be his legal and PR counsel. The larger issue here is that the Prime Minister did not get a statement on the humiliation of the illegal immigrants who were brought in here, not in the best of conditions, in a US military plane, allowing Donald Trump to play to his domestic gallery, and our own Indians getting humiliated. This is my opening statement.
Okay, viewers, Mr. Sanjay Jha is, of course, going by the rhetoric that Trump produces. Where he does it in front of somebody or he doesn't really make a difference. What has gone into the written statement, viewers, is what matters. And here, viewers, Sanjay Jha says nothing has happened. Before I bring in General Bakshi, I just want to quickly bring in 2 or 3 points. General Bakshi, Tahawur Rana. General Bakshi, Pakistan named, shamed in that statement. America has decided to completely break on the issue of parity that Pakistan seeks with India on sponsoring terror, which of course is a legacy that the Congress hard-coded into one of the agreements. You know that, General Saab. Tariff, which punitive tariff has been slapped on India as we speak? In fact, there is a mutually exclusive commitment to come up with a two-way agreement, a win-win agreement. Nothing has happened. American top-line armaments commitment to supply those to India, including a big aeroplane, which is a 5th-generation fighter. Khalistan anti-India elements have been put on notice. A list by India has been submitted, and Trump has said in front of Modi that he's going to be considering that list. And viewers, interoperability. There is a reference to interoperability also, which is a huge leg up. Please read the statement. General Bakshi, how do you see this? And then I want to bring in Colonel Shukla, Dr. Ranganathan, and Tuhin Sinha of the BJP. Yes, General Bakshi.
Rahul, the greatest impact has been at the grand strategic level, from which level flows strategy and the rest of it, operational art, tactics, etc. Grand strategic level. Let me amplify. In the Biden administration, our relations had reached a nadir because the geopolitical, linchpin of the entire Indo-American strategic partnership had been undone. Previous administration said China is our great threat. China is the main competition. When Joe Biden came, he pivoted back to Europe. He said, Russia is my main threat, right? I am going to destroy the Russian economy. I am going to see that there is a coup in Moscow and Putin is driven out. Nothing of that sort happened. But in the bargain, he said, if you are not with us, you are against us. We haven't seen a more hostile American administration since Richard Nixon. And they had staged the coup in Bangladesh. Let's not pussyfoot around it. And the difference, Rahul? Donald Trump said, Mr. Modi will deal with Bangladesh. Here is a clear recognition of India's sphere of influence. In 1971, despite Henry Kissinger and Nixon and China, we had broken Pakistan in two, created a new nation state with the force of arms in Bangladesh. We had restructured subcontinental security. We had made India the preeminent power. Joe Biden did his best, damnedest to undo it by putting us in a 3.5 front war situation with Bangladesh as a hostile, inimical country, almost a clone of East Pakistan. Donald Trump has told you,
Yes.
Mr. Modi is competent to deal with it. Have you understood the implication? It is first at the grand strategic level. Now, the previous administration had stabbed us in the bloody back, man. We had given them $1 billion for the LCA engine deal, GE 404414, which was supposed to power the Tejas and the AMCA. They gobbled our money and they didn't give us the aircraft, the engines for the last 2 years. Donald Trump has said that is going to be the first corrective. In the fighter deal of the century, we were offered only the F-16s and their derivative, souped up version F-21. F-16s had been given to Pakistan 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that was the old mindset of equivalence. Pakistan gets the F-104, we get the F-5s, right? And we were forced to go to the Russians for the MiG-21s.
Yeah.
So, Rahul, we must understand the paradigm shift that has taken place. Thank
That's one
God
view.
Donald Trump won.
General Bakshi is
Thank God Donald Trump won.
putting his facts out there for others to examine and respond to. Dr. Ranganathan and Colonel Shukla, let me bring you in, and I want to bring in Tuhin Sinha right after. Tuhin, let's hear everybody's position, and then I'll frame some questions for you to respond to specifically. So, Dr. Ranganathan, what do you make of this? You've been examining this entire run-up to this meeting over the last few days, and we've had conversations. You have a perspective. You may not be a security analyst, but you have a pretty informed perspective. Why don't you elaborate on this?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Half of those are possibly more are experts, so I speak here as a layman. There are two issues here I'd like to talk on. Number one is the one that you started your wonderful debate with. But, in the last 11 years, Rahul, tell me one thing that Modi has done that has been appreciated by the opposition, even though half the things that he has done have been implement ideas of the opposition, like the farm laws, like the CAA, like the GST, and so many others. Tell me one. The problem is they promote open defecation because they hate Modi's Swachh Bharat. They promote obesity because they hate Modi's Fit India. One hopes Modi doesn't wake up one day and recommend breathing of clean air, or the opposition leaders will pick up axes in their thousands and begin chopping trees. Look, the point is, my issue is Modi should have taken the Adani question and retorted straight up. Why? When Rahul Gandhi calls Adani corrupt, have multiple Congress state governments continued to invest 85,000 crores of taxpayer money in his companies? क्या चल रहा है उनके बीच में deal? This is how you should have answered that question. Behral, the point of the matter is something else. Returning to the issue at hand. Look, there is no two ways about it. General Bakshi has elaborated this. The US is our vital trade and security partner. And unfortunately, because historically our foreign policy was shackled by obsolete Nehruvian thinking, we've had a cagey relationship with the USA, but things are on the bend. More than 34% of Indian stock market assets are American investments. Indo-US trade has surged from $16 billion in 1999 to $201 billion now, double of French-US trade. And for a change, India has a trade surplus of 50 billion, which is still 1/6 of China's trade surplus with the USA. So the real bee in Trump's bonnet is actually China for the moment, not India as far as tariffs are concerned, whatever his rhetoric might be. Returning to our relationship, NASA and ISRO are partnering. We have sent 200 American satellites into space. Our science collaboration is very strong. There is talk of building nuclear reactors together. Energy is a sector where both nations are looking to collaborate heavily. Time has come for us to realize we are what we are, Rahul, and we are what we are going to be because of hard power and not soft power. And so we must demand returns from Trump whenever he negotiates. Finally, on this point about tariffs, I need to say this. The opposition out here wants India to be first. Why is this hypocrisy when it doesn't want Trump to be American first there? Look, Trump wants to levy tariffs because there is a $300 billion trade deficit with China. So I want to ask the opposition out here. We have a $100 billion trade deficit with China. Should we raise our tariffs or not? Why this double speak when it comes to Trump and when it comes to India?
Rahul, can I give
that's
Rahul,
a very
can I
good
give a quick response?
No, that's a very good one. But one second, I want to bring in
Let
Colonel
me give
Shukla.
you a
He's made
short
some time.
response.
One second, Mr. Jha. He's made some time. So is Tuhin Sinha. Let them all get their opening thoughts. We'll have counters, no problems. They've also taken their time out. Colonel Shukla, I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things, and I want your perspective. Shashi Tharoor comes out and says, I think that's a very good outcome because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports. This way, there is time to discuss and negotiate. So he's talking about this tariff trade gap, expectation gap. Then he goes on to say, we have got all that we could have expected, except for an assurance in the way the migrants were sent back. Now, that's a separate question. But he says, we could have got all we could have expected. Is Shashi Tharoor someone who makes ill-informed, politically expedient statements on foreign policy? Or would you say that this was a well-considered, thought-out opinion to a question that was put to him fairly late in the day after the joint statement had been put out hours before? Colonel.
Rahul, firstly, thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome, sir.
Second, we are making the mistake once again of completely polarizing this debate.
Okay.
That either it was a completely successful visit or it was a complete failure, with one side saying that it was a complete failure and the other side giving the other viewpoint. No. When the United States meets with India at the summit level, there are going to be concessions which are offered by the United States and there are going to be concessions that are accepted by India. It is not because of the great persona of the leaders in question. It's because of the power, influence, and standing of the countries that are concerned. The United States cannot dismiss India as a sort of a non-entity. Neither can India expect to be treated by the United States as, a great superpower. Now, a couple of points which you have made, that, for example, the aircraft that was offered by the United States this time, the F-35, that Modi has done achieved some major concession by the United States. No, that's not the case. We have to admit that. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is unquestionably the premier aircraft in the world today. But India has already cast its die and gone the way of the Rafale, gone the way of French alliances. And now if it goes and gets the F-35, it would have gone from 7 different aircraft types to 8 different aircraft types. That is not a good idea. You are also sort of touting the H-1B visas and the sort of concessions being made to India on that. Now, just remember that the United States is actually benefiting from each of these PhD students, doctors, specialists in various fields. By giving them American citizenship, it's not a concession to India. It's it's like using India to build up the United States in multiple fields, which is something that we all have seen and are proud of.
Okay.
But it's not a benefit to India. So I would say that let us...
Okay, but these points, Colonel Saab, that you're raising, the F-35, whether it's good or bad, that's a secondary issue. But
no,
the fact
not
that...
a secondary issue. That's a primary issue.
One second. It comes only whether India wants to go ahead and purchase them, right? I mean, you'll only discuss it when India says, okay, thank you for the offer. We're considering it. Now let's get into the technicalities to assess whether it's worth it or not. The point is it's been put on the table, which was not the case, as General Bakshi has pointed out earlier. We weren't being given access to these. So this is a concession. This is a expression of faith and trust and confidence in
Rahul,
India. One
just
second, just one
to
second.
sort of
And
put a
on this
factual
H1B,
point there,
I take your point on
just to,
H1B.
you're making a factually incorrect statement.
Okay, sir.
It was available even countries like Turkey,
Okay.
which certainly do not enjoy the status in the United
General
States.
Bakshi will come in on that. He'll come
was
in on that.
getting the
But just one
F-35.
other point, Colonel Saab, just one other point. You said, H1B, it's not a concession. Well, MAGA, the base that elected Trump, wants H1B shut down. And Trump is right now in the horns of a dilemma. So Musk first said, no, it's a great thing. We should go ahead with it. Then he did a backflip. And he said, no, there are problems with H1B. In fact, we want the H1B cap to be actually opened. That would be a major concession. But the fact that it hasn't been scrapped. One second.
More Indian.
No, I know that, sir. We know how idiotic Trump's position or the MAGA base's position is on this. But the axe hasn't fallen. The guillotine hasn't come down on the necks of H1B. And we should say that that is an advantageous position to be in. I'm not saying it's a concession. And I just want to bring in the BJP national spokesperson. But before that, I just want to point out a NYT headline. This is the New York Times. Hates Mr. Modi. Okay. It says, Trump and Modi shove disputes into background in White House visit. Hours after President Trump paved the way for upending the United States trade relationship with India with broad reciprocal tariffs, he and Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented a united front during a news conference on Thursday on this issue at the White House. Viewers, the NYT says that they've closed ranks. This is a massive triumph for Modi. Anyhow, I want to get the BJP national spokesperson in. The charge that is being made by Akhilesh Yadav and others from the India bloc is, this is great PR work. As usual, Modi has excelled himself in PR. Explain, sir. Respond. Nothing has come out of it, says Sanjay Jha. Zilch. Nada.
Well, good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Rahul. Good evening, everybody. Great achievements also need good PR, and I don't think there is anything wrong in selling a good achievement, a great achievement.
Well put.
This is a historic day in Indo-US relationships. This is a historic day when it comes in the history of India-US relations. The enormity of collaboration which is being explored in 4 sectors, particularly AI, defense, energy security and space technology is just one part of it. But how time has come a full circle, that messaging is more important than anything else. There was a time, 15 years ago when Modi ji was denied visa to the US, supported by an obnoxious UPA government over here. Today you have President Trump, hold the chair for him while he sits down. Today you have, there was a time in 2011 when the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Modi ji, was the only person saying Tahapur Rana, the mastermind of 2611, should be extradited. Today, you have Trump saying that Tahapur Rana is being extradited. We will also extradite others. The list is pretty long, but we are working on it. You have Trump tell the world that Modi is, competent to handle Bangladesh. These are very important messages. These are very important messages, and if the opposition is not cognizant of it or is not equipped to understand it, then bad luck for the opposition. The trade, understanding, $500 billion worth of trade by 2030, and most of it, the details would be worked out in subsequent summits later this year, particularly by fall or autumn. I think it's a brilliant start, way better than we had expected. See, I heard Sanjay very carefully, but most of his, argument today are, he's in a decline mode. Trump has a certain style. He has an overwhelming style of talking. He has an overbearing style of talking. You can't change that. He has a slightly isolationist approach. But when it comes to India, the fondness that he has for Prime Minister Modi, the personal rapport that he has,
maybe you're presaging,
apart from,
maybe you've given us a very comprehensive view here, and you haven't certainly balked at my using the term PR or the opposition using the term PR, turning it into actually a positive relations, you've said. Perfect relations, you've said. But listen, I just want to quickly run us through 2-3 other headlines, viewers. This is the Washington Post, the WAPO. It says cooperation on trade and defense plus some mutual praise. That's their headline. LA Times, Modi visit with Trump could boost US-India relations. LA Times viewers. Boston Globe, cooperation on trade and defense plus some mutual praise. Same sort of a headline. Indian Prime Minister Modi strengthens bonds amid tariff tensions. Trump, Indian Prime Minister Modi strengthens bonds amid tariff tensions. This is the Washington Times, viewers. There are several other newspapers I can keep going through. So the consensus in the American press is that the bonds are actually strengthening, and that bugbear, that tariff bugbear, has been kicked down the road a little bit. Yes, it has to be addressed. But the great thing is going to be done in a mutually exclusive framework. We are not going to be part of the rabble